Welcome to Allie's Attic, where you never know what kind of surprise you'll find in my attic. I'm your host, Allie, and today my surprise is an amazing mom. She is a mom on an autism mission. Please welcome Lynn. Hi, Lynn.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
Great.
So I know that your son has autism, and I'm going to get you to talk about what it was like growing up with a child who has autism and what you did to kind of overcome it and what you're doing now. And please talk about your book.
I certainly will. Thank you. Thanks for having me. As you said, I am a mom of an autistic teenager. I'm also the mom of 3 older children. Peyton was my youngest of 4. And as soon as Peyton was born, I knew there was something different about him. He really did not want to sleep laying down. He only wanted to sleep in a swing. And he really didn't outgrow that until he was almost a year. And I kept saying to the doctor, I think he might be autistic. And they would say, no, we can't really test yet. We can't test yet. He was nonverbal. And when he was 4, they diagnosed him and said, he probably will never talk, he'll never read, and he will never write. And I said, well, that may be what you think, but that's not what I think. And between me and my older 3 kids, we hunkered down, we formed a union, and we worked with him. And I'm so proud of him. He reads, he writes his own blog, he's on social media, he talks, he's amazing, he's awesome, he is. And that's part of the reason why I call it awesomism. I tell him all the time that he doesn't have autism, he has awesomism, because he's the one of 68, he's the special one, and all the rest of us are just the same. And he's my pride and joy, and his older siblings just adore him, and he has turned our lives inside out and upside down in such a positive way. We have learned to love the little things in life, and we formed a bond. And my husband came into my life about 5 years ago, my second husband, and he is Peyton's stepdad, and he is just as awesome with them. And we enjoy it. I mean, we enjoy our times. There's rough times, absolutely, but there's a lot of positives to it. And I wrote a book, and my book is about how we as parents, especially parents of children with special needs, need to take that coffee break. Take that 10 minutes, that 15 minutes that we de-stress when we're feeling overwhelmed. And in my book, I talk about how everyday little things can just help us de-stress. I have pictures in there. I have recipes in there. I have ideas of, when you take a walk, just certain things to do on the walk to help de-stress yourself, music to listen to. I give all kinds of different tips as well as inspirational pieces. And like I said, I have recipes. I have all kinds of things in there. I write about all the different types of teas because I'm a real big tea drinker. And it basically is just to remind you, you need to take that break. There's nothing wrong with taking 15, 20 minutes and just taking time for yourself. Because when you clear your head, it's also easier to deal with all the other things that are getting thrown at you in life. Mm-hmm. And, too few parents, really, they feel like they're being selfish if they take that 15, 20 minutes. And really, they're being selfish if they don't take that 15 or 20 minutes because they're not allowing themselves to de-stress and be the best they can be for their child, too. And, the one thing that I remind myself, too, and I used to remind my older kids when they would get frustrated with Peyton when he was young and he would do certain things like he went through a stage where he just walked around and around and around and around the coffee table. Like, I'm talking until he would pass out of exhaustion.
Wow.
And my older kids would get so frustrated, and they'd be like, Mom, I'm trying to watch a TV show. And I would tell them all the time, Peyton didn't ask to be born with autism. In fact, he probably wants it less than you want him to have it. So, we need to understand that these kind of things that Peyton does, instead of yelling at him, let's redirect him. And we did. We'd redirect him to something else. And eventually he stopped doing it.
Wow.
Because, he started to learn.
Yeah.
And, and if you allow yourself to get so stressed up and so over-exhausted in the moment, you yell, and then they get stressed, and then it gets bigger. If you take that step back, breathe, maybe just walk out in your backyard, look at nature, look at the beautiful flowers, look at trees, look at the sunshine, look at the beauty in clouds. I mean, one game I always played with my older kids when they were young, and Peyton and I still do it, is what does that cloud look like? And, and then you find yourself laughing because you come up with these silly things. There's so many things you can do. You lower that level of stress, and then you go and deal with the situation. And that's what my book is about. My book is about turning autism into awesomism.
Wow.
And one of my other big things that I'm really, really, really focused on is this 85% unemployment rate that autistic teens and adults have. That's just unacceptable.
It is.
There is no way anyone can justify that to me.
Mm-hmm.
And my feeling on it is, my personal feeling is, a lot of businesses are afraid to hire them because they don't know how they're going to train them. They don't know if they'll have a meltdown. Instead of working with the parents, instead of getting the parents to work with their child and get their child in there. And one of the things that comes off of this also that really, really bothers me is, if that child doesn't have a job, let's just take an imaginary child that's 23 years old. They don't have a job. They don't have a lot of friends because they're not real social. They don't talk a lot, or they get stressed out and stuff. So they don't go out and about very much. What do you think that child becomes? Very lonely.
Yeah.
And then depression sets in. And all kinds of other bad things come off of that.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is why even like there's shelters around the country that are now doing programs that have autistic teens and adults come in and volunteer. I love it. I absolutely love it. If we set up more volunteering opportunities for some of these kids, more business opportunities for them, this can change the way these things, the way their lives progress. I mean, I know that Peyton, when he is successful at something or someone tells him, oh, wow, Peyton, that's awesome, something he does, it literally carries through for days. I mean, for days. He has a lot more confidence to try something, to do something.
Yeah, I would imagine. And I think it's awful that they aren't employing, because like you said, depression sets in, and unfortunately, people with mental disabilities, when things like that happen and they do become very antisocial, get lonely, get depressed, suicide also is a big factor. And people need to realize that in order to combat it, we all have to come together and help figure it out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're exactly right. When, I didn't even want to bring up the suicide side of it, but you're absolutely right. And I brought this up with people. I've said, what comes off of serious depression? What comes off of loneliness? And I mean, this is also why I'm very big on, if I see an adult or a teenager that's autistic on Twitter, because, I do a lot of Twitter, get bullied, I jump in.
Yeah.
I have zero problem jumping in and saying something, because sometimes literally that is their only outlet to the outside of the world. And I'm like, you really aren't a big person bullying someone with autism. You're really kind of a small person. So I really enjoy standing up for that person, not because I want to come across as like some big bully slayer, but because I want that autistic teen or adult to know, hey, there's somebody out there who cares about you. There's somebody out there who may not even know you other than your Twitter name, but they care about you. They have your back.
Yeah, exactly. And more people need to be like that. I mean, the world is in such chaos that it's time to everybody band together and help out everybody, every different mental disability, everything in the world. I mean, I think, and this is just my personal view, I don't want to say presidents, but everybody knows how I feel about Trump, presidents and leaders of all these countries and stuff, it concerns me because I think maybe they possibly do have mental difficulties or mental illnesses, because I can't, in my heart and mind, think of starting a war or hurting people that live in my country. So I think that people really need to, like I said, band together and stop all of this stuff and realize, like, autistic children they're the sweetest. I've met so many of them, and they're just the sweetest kind of people. And they seem more emphatic than the majority of other people. And I don't know if that's true, Lynn. I don't know if that's just me, but I just find that they just feel more.
I agree, but one thing I do want to differ with you on is I don't think it's just on Trump. I think it's on both sides of the aisle. I mean, some of the ugliness on both sides is heightened up so much, and when the rhetoric is, and I have put this out on Twitter many times, and I stand by this. Too many people are now about agendas and not about causes. And when we stop with our agendas and we start understanding causes on both sides of the aisle, I think we will have a much better, sounder, safer, and more caring population. Yeah. But when you go at someone with an agenda, I don't care if you're on the left or you're on the right. If you're just full of agenda and not about cause, you don't see that person as an individual that needs help. You see that as, how can I push what I believe instead of how can I help someone?
Yeah.
And that's where I have real problems with people. And I'll tell you something else that I have a real issue with is people pointing fingers. You know, well, if this person hadn't said that, then this wouldn't have happened. No. Everybody is responsible for their own actions. And everyone needs to internalize and look. You know, I had a friend that used to say, and my dad always said this, when you deflect instead of reflect, okay, you will never get to the heart of the problem. Because if you're only going to deflect, that person did it, so that's why this happened. What am I doing? Like I used to tell my older kids when they would fight, you know, those three are close in age. And when they would argue and stuff, I'd sit down and I'd say to them, okay, just out of curiosity, why did he hit you? Well, he blah, blah, blah. So you didn't do anything at all to bring this on. Well, okay, what's your role in this? What did you do in this? And then why did you react this way? And, you know, and when you get them to sit down and say, well, okay, then, you know, when they become adults, they look outside of themselves more. And I think there's too many adults running around going, this person has that problem, that person has this problem, instead of going, you know what, I think this is just wrong. I'm going to change the tone. I'm going to change the rhetoric. Mm-hmm. And until we change the tone and the rhetoric and we all start reflecting instead of deflecting and we start going for causes instead of agendas, I think we'll see a real difference. And you know what? We can only do what we can do, and that's why I said to you, I love your show, because I think you're allowing people to come on and push causes, not agendas. You're allowing people to talk about what they're doing. This is a start. What you're doing is magnificent. That's why I said the other day on Twitter, I love what you do, because you're cause-driven. That's awesome. I love people who are cause-driven. And I'd love to get 100 people behind me that are cause-driven, because that's what we need. We need cause-driven, not agenda-driven. And I'm just so adamant on that. I'm just so adamant on that. And when I meet people who are cause-driven, I just want to team up with them, because I feel like sometimes, like maybe we're just going to be this little world into itself. But you know what? Maybe we can make a difference to the rest of the world.
Well, and there's always the domino effect. Whatever you throw into that pond, there's ripples. And I mean, thank you for saying it's both sides when I talked about Trump, because it is both sides. And I watch people post about him on Twitter, and it's always negative. And I mean, I personally don't like the man. I didn't even like him before he was president, but that's just my opinion. But you're so right. Like, if everybody's just poking at him and making fun of him and, you know, smashing him all the time, it's just feeding the frenzy. It's not stopping it.
No, it's not, because all it's doing then, and this is what I keep trying to tell people, I don't care how you feel about him. You have a right. All three of my children voted for somebody different, okay? And I used to say to people after the election, okay, so just out of curiosity here, okay, just out of curiosity, which one of my children should I disown, since you seem to think that, you know, we all have to think alike, okay? I clearly need to disown two of the three and stick with one. I mean, that's just silly nonsense, okay? There's three adult individuals who have that right to feel however they want. And the bottom line is, if all we do is promote, I don't care which side you're throwing it at. I don't care if you were throwing it at President Obama or you're throwing it at President Trump. If all you want to do is throw the negative, here's what happens. Then that you get the people who stand on your side and clap all the time because you're being ugly, and the people on the other side think, how ugly can I get at you because you're making me mad?
Yeah.
And then all good causes get lost into rhetoric, which again, we then become focused on agendas. And that's why I'm trying to change it, and that's why we're going to take to the road. Like I told you, when we were discussing earlier, we're in the process of getting sponsorships right now, and we're going to go on a year-long mission around the United States and spread the awesomism cause and spread the 85% unemployment rate, tell individual stories, put faces to names, and go talk to businesses and churches and schools and whoever wants us to talk to them, and get out there and promote the positive and help fix the negative. Because I'm a big believer in, everybody can complain, but if you don't do something to fix it, you kind of are a part of the problem, not a part of the solution.
Oh my goodness. You explain things so eloquently. Like you just... I could sit and listen to you all day. You nailed. I want to tell one quick story before we're done. Sure.
I want to tell a really heartwarming, unbelievable story.
Are you going to make me cry again? You're going to make me cry.
2 years ago, I was approached by a Florida State football player by the name of Everett Dawkins. He was done playing football at Florida State, and he was starting a foundation called the Underdog Kids. And he wanted to help underdog kids who basically were getting left behind by the system, by their parents, by schools, by everybody, be it because of special needs or their economic situation or something. And he and I, because I am a diehard, anybody who knows me personally knows I eat, sleep, and drink Florida State football. And so I do. That and Chicago sports are my weakness. And so we connected, and he became a big brother figure to Peyton. And Peyton was going through, I'm going to cry. Peyton was going through a particularly rough spot for a while where he was feeling really ostracized and on the outs. And Everett stepped up, and he told him, you know what, Peyton? It's okay to be the underdog. It's cool to be the different one. You're awesome. And it really had a huge impact in Peyton's life. And I was so touched, and Peyton wrote a blog about why Big E, he calls him Big E, why Big E is his hero. Because the littlest things, if Peyton gets a haircut and he gets on Twitter and says, I got my haircut, or sends Big E a message telling him he got his haircut or something, he responds back, way to go, little buddy, it's awesome, that's what's up. And it just, every little thing, he makes a big deal out of for Peyton. And it was such a life changer for Peyton. And that's why when the Travis Rudolph story came out where he sat and ate lunch with the autistic boy at the public school, I wrote a blog about how, we moms of autistic kids worry every day that someone's going to accept them. And then when these kind of men who other kids really want to be friends with and get attention from and get their autographs and all this kind of stuff, go up to them and go, that's my buddy right there. It makes such a game changer in their lives. And Everett is just, to me, I can't say enough good about this guy because he is a big guy. I mean, he's a defensive player, and he is big. And let me tell you something, his heart is 10 times the size his body is. And I love people like him because if there were 1,000 Everett Dawkins running around this country, honest to God, I think we'd have a better country.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm crying. He sounds amazing. And thank God he's doing what he's doing. I just followed him on Twitter, and I hope that he comes on my show to talk about more of the things that they do for children that are considered the underdogs. Now, like I told you, my grandson has ADHD, so I know that having somebody on that has a child that has ADHD and what she did helped my daughter. So having you on is going to help so many people that have autistic children or are autistic. And grabbing your book and catching a break. I think that is I had to tell my daughter, every now and then you just got to breathe. And so that you, like, the fact that you mentioned that in your book is amazing, because everybody does have to realize that you have to take a breather. Because, yeah, if you get mad, it's just going to make it worse. And it's just going to be a big, huge thing afterwards. And then everybody's going to feel bad after. And then you've got the guilt. And so I'm really glad that you addressed that in your book. I'm really glad that you wrote the book, period. I'm so honored that you're on my show. I'm so looking forward to hearing from you when you go on the road all across the United States and spread awareness and hopefully start getting these people jobs. I mean, and feel good about themselves. Lynn, you blow me away. You're my hero. You blow me away.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You're going to make me cry.
I'm crying now.
I have such a compassion for autistic teens and adults. And I know how much I love Peyton and how much Peyton has changed our lives. And my older 3 children have become warriors to protect kids with special needs and adults. And they have taken it into their workplace, into their personal life, out in public. You know, my daughter she now lives in Dresden, Germany, and she has zero problem stepping in the middle of a situation and saying, leave that person alone. And my boys are the same way. I mean, they have zero. They don't care. If you pick on somebody because they can't defend themselves, my 3 children, my older children, will always step in. And I know that they have that kind of personality, but having Peyton as a brother has just really magnified that, because, you know, they tell me all the time, I mean, I could tell you hundreds of stories of times that my kids have stepped in for somebody, and every time they say the same thing to me. That could just have easily been Peyton. And if I wasn't there and somebody didn't step up for Peyton, I don't know what I'd do. So I'll be that voice to step in for that person.
Yeah, wow. And there needs to be more people that do that. So kudos to you for raising amazing kids. But yeah, I mean, when Katy Perry went on the Grammys and performed that song and talked about everybody getting down from their ivory tower and actually, like, helping change the world, I think it just blew me away that she had that message in her song. And I think that's the truth. People like you, people like her, like, there's just so many great causes. The march that they had, everybody has to start stepping in for people that can't defend themselves and making the world a kinder place. I think that's just the key. And like you said, the cause. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think here's my thing. I see people all the time putting out signs about, you know, this and this and this and this and this and this, and we all need to be nicer, and then they turn around and tear people to shreds. And it's like, excuse me? You know, I mean, come on. You know, don't give me words, give me action.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you're going to tell me that you're going to support autistic teens and adults, don't turn around then and say they ride the short bus. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you want to help somebody, you know, we all have a tongue. We all have words that are going to hurt. We all have said things. I'm far from someone who's going to stand up there and say, "Oh, look at me, I've done everything perfect." I haven't. I've said things to people that I wish I had never said. I've done things I wish I'd never said. I especially, you know, when I was younger, and I've done wrong things because, again, if you only deflect, you'll never reflect.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I'm sorry, but like you just said, that's part of the reason why I wrote this book, too, is because you know, I wish I had taken those 15 minutes. I wish I had stepped back a few times and not just immediately allowed my anger or my frustration or my overwhelmness or my stress at that moment to allow me to yell or to get angry or to say something that cuts like a knife with words. I want to, and that's, the book was as much for me and my family as it was for everybody else. And that's, you know, people say to me, oh, that's so great, Lynn. I'm so glad you do that. I say, look, I'm not perfect. I'm far from being perfect. You know, I mean, I've done many things that I regret. But having said all that, if we don't recognize what we've done wrong, we'll never fix our problems either.
Exactly. That is so true. Because I've done the same thing. I've said things and done things that I wish I never would have done. And I want to share this with you, Lynn, because it just blows me away. I have so many people tell me that I'm too nice. And I'm thinking, why is that a bad thing? Why are people pointing that out? Like, I don't understand. And that just right there shows you what the world is turning into. So people like you are just a breath of fresh air. You totally are.
I mean, I appreciate that because, you know, I just try. It's so funny that you say that because I look at myself as kind of like in the good cop, bad cop. My husband is really the good cop. My husband has the patience of a saint. He is just like the easiest going guy. He gives people the benefit of the doubt. You know, he's so sweet. And part of what I love so much about him is he's taught me to take that step back. He's taught me to understand that if I don't take that breather, if I don't, you know, understand that people may not mean what they're saying to me and the way that I'm taking it, also, that it's just going to elevate and escalate.
Yeah.
And you know, and that's something, and I'm going to tell you something. That is what I learned from having Peyton. I used to be very quick on the draw with if somebody said something to me and think, okay, well, that's real nice. That's what they just said. That's what they think. You know, and instead, having Peyton, because Peyton doesn't always make his sentences the way he means them, I realized, you know what? I would not appreciate somebody taking Peyton wrong and jumping on him. I need to, if I want that towards Peyton, I need to learn to exercise the same.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, okay, I'm gonna stop now because I seriously could talk to you all day. Now, your book can be found on Amazon and Kindle, and it's, what is the book title? It's Autism.
Mom on an Awesomism mission.
Awesome. Now I can't say it. Awesomism.
Awesomism.
There goes my day. And your website is AwesomismMom.com. So I urge everybody to go there. I'm telling everybody right now, Lynn's going to be back on my show because starting her tour across America, Lynn, I want updates. I want to know how things are going. I want to hear, you know, that you got people employed and people are now educated and you are initiating the change because like I said, I think you're awesome. So yeah, Lynn is going to be back on my show. So you will hear from her again. And Lynn, I haven't cried so many times during an interview ever. So thank you so much for coming on and talking about Peyton. And I mean, a mother's love is the strongest thing in the world, and you prove it.
Thank you.
Prove it. So, okay, I'm going to cry again. Okay, so anyways, thank you so much for coming on my show, and I look forward to hearing from you again, and hopefully this helps.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. I mean, this was wonderful. You're so easy to talk to. I feel like I've known you my whole life. I love this. It was a blast, and I really do deeply appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Anytime. Like I said, anytime. And thank you for joining me on Allie's Attic. Keep checking my website because you never know what kind of surprise you'll find in my attic. Cheers.